Thank you for tuning in, everybody. In this video, I'm using this particular reference picture from Pixabay. It's one of the references that you could use. It's free for you to use, no copyright violations. So I'm using this particular image to create and pencil in a portrait. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how I do this as I do it live right here, except for a little bit I'm going to speed it up, but mostly it's live. So I'm beginning with the hair, the outline, the hair, but the reference, it doesn't matter where you start, right? Wherever it is, that's going to be my first reference point from which I'm going to add other things to it. Like in this case, I began with the hairline. Sometimes it's the eyebrow, sometimes it's the eye, it could be anything. So in this case here, I'm beginning with the hairline and going to the jawline. I'm trying to get those proportions correct first. The contour lines, the contours. So the first thing I want to be able to do is to make sure I have gotten those gestures and those contours, correctly. And this is almost like an underpainting, like an underdrawing. And I'm using, like I said, a 0.5 lead to do this. Okay, the reference is from Pixabay. So here I'm establishing the broader shapes, like you could get some people go directly with the eye and then build from around there. There are many ways of doing it, like you could visualize it in many ways. In this particular case, I'm approaching it with broader shapes first and then details later. So my objective right now is to get the hairline, the basic gesture of the head, the posture, and just mapping those positions, of the eyebrows. And it's a very tricky thing here because I want to be able to get this basic. This is where there's a lot of tension, in the beginning. You want to be able to get these correctly at the very beginning, so you don't have to make too many errors, You still do make errors and you're going to have to use your eraser. However, if you're careful by visualizing, I talk about it a lot, see the lines before you draw them, okay? So you're going to see that eye right there, and then you sort of trace what you project onto the white paper. You understand? So, and always looking back at the reference. I'm going to show you in a second the reference that I'm using and see if it matches, So once again, at this point, the laying out, right, of the positioning is what I'm concerned about. So it's very important that I get the distances between the eyes, the distance between the eyebrow and the eyelids, the distance between the eye and the ear, the ear, the mouth, the upper lip and the nose. These are very critical judgments that you're going to have to make in the beginning, all right? So that's my focus up here right now, trying to get it as close as possible to it. Obviously, right now, I haven't achieved it. As you can see, the chin isn't right, and there are many things that needs to be fixed, but you're going to see as I go along how I fix it, and try to get it as close as possible. Once again, my objective is to draw a portrait of a figure particularly not to make it exactly like her, because it's not a commissioned portrait or anything like that, so I'm not particularly worried about exact likeness. However, it's very important to try to get it as close as possible to your reference picture. You know, that's very good practice. So that's what I'm trying to achieve up here, okay? As you can see, things are getting a little bit better as I go along with this, okay? So the ear, right behind the ear, and you know, at this point, I'm not even worried about the details, but once again, the positioning, you know, the location. It's kind of like if you're squinting at everything, and you want to be able to do that squinting technique to be able to establish the broader shapes and the broader the angles and the broad shapes first, okay? So the chin needs a lot of adjustment up here, and it's a good time to use the eraser to make those corrections. Okay. And all right. So here, let me speed it up a little bit so we can get to a little bit more at a better spot, okay? So there we are, everybody, a little bit better with the cheeks and with the chin a little bit. So we're getting closer to what I want it to look like. And so we're gonna continue here and darken everything, you know. So the next thing is for us to be able to like see, and you know, one of the ways for you to do it is to be able to use cross hatching. And in this way, cross hatching, you can actually be able to, you need to be able to show that the nose, the projection of the nose, you know, the planes protruding outward, and you want to be able to show a little bit of the foreshortening. The foreshortening, you want to be able to show those cheek lines, pop them out, and give more dimensions, you know, to the skin and those bones and the structure beneath the skull, you know, the skull structure beneath the cheeks. You want to be able to pop them out. Once again, you're looking at the reference constantly, and which is what I'm doing here, to look back at the reference and to make sure that I'm trying to be as close as possible to where I want this penciling to go, okay? So here I've been using all these cross hatching, and here, as you can see, it's coming a little bit closer in terms of what I want it to look like, although there's still a lot of work to it, but this is the way you want to be able to make sure that it's as close as possible to the reference that you're using, but at the same time you want to also think about what you know about this. For example, you know that the eyes should be here, and that that the nose projects outward, and that there's a cheekbone. There's also knowledge, that you have. All right, so that's what I'm doing here, working on this, using a little bit of cross-hatching, laying everything out. Now that everything is coming together, you have a clearer idea, a clearer view. And that's what happens as you go into the drawing. And this has been a live drawing, everybody. As you can see, it's been about like 10 minutes, 12 minutes since I began doing this. And, it's not a long time. But that's the whole point. The point with this kind of practice is for you to be able to lay these out quickly, but not in a hurry. You know what I mean? Not in a hurry, but you want to be able to lay them out faster, judging the values, using cross-hatching, thinking about, the proportions, the distances between the nose and the eyes and the mouth, the forehead, and the tilt of the face, and the basic perspective. We want to be able to have that line going in the back behind our head, and you need to visualize those perspective lines, all disappearing into that one-point perspective. Now, this is a one-point perspective drawing, and the horizon line is right behind her ears, and it's stretching outward from behind the ears, and all these lines, they go on to the horizon line. And there's one point in the middle of there from which all lines protrude outward, okay? So this is behind the scene, it's in your imagination, and that's where you're gonna keep it flowing from your imagination, okay? All right, so there is my drawing, everybody. So there are many possibilities at this point. You could like ink it and make it a fantastic piece, or even paint over it, and all kinds of things are possible. So I want to be able to go back and touch it up with a little bit more darker values to pop out something else. So here is where I'm using a different pencil at this point. I'm using like a dark, I believe it's an 8B, kind of an 8B graphite pencil. So I've been using the 0.5 2B up to this point, but now I switched to a darker one. I believe it's 8B, okay? One of those graphite pencils. So here I'm trying to lay in and look back at some of the values and see if I can pop out everything up here, and that's the point at here, okay? So I feel that I've established the proportions, and I feel that I established a little bit of the, the way I want this portrait to go. But at this point, I have to be working on details. See, once again, how well you do the details, taking your own little sweet time is very important. And here, for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going fast with this, but it's a good idea to go very slow and complete it. But as you can see, the objective is for me to pop out the grays from the whites to the dark blacks, okay? So that's exactly what I'm doing here, always using the reference and trying to build from the reference. Once again, this is live, everybody, live. You're seeing it as it's being done. There was only one little area that I speeded up, but everything else is in real time, okay? So this is a very good way for you to practice your portrait sketching and your portraits, which will eventually going to help you when you make your canvases and your oil paintings and whatever else. So this is one of the most important basic steps without which nothing is possible. So it's in laying out this basic pencil. So here, penciling in all these values is where the whole thing happens, okay? So there's the picture, there is the painting that we've worked on, and you see, it's time for you to put those finishing touches and see if you can, get it as close as possible to the reference, which is what I'm doing here. So there's our portrait, everyone. So, penciling it in, and to create a border is another good way for you to understand, how to position it how to frame it into your frame, So it's a good thing for you to do this to all of your drawings, to put them into a frame, so you have an idea of, how the figure is, how the portrait is, okay? So there's our portrait, a penciling in, and it's a quick one. It's done in about 20 minutes for this, 20 minutes to study this. So you could call this a study, a pencil study, of what you want, what you want to do. So, and now of course it's coloring and other things that you could do with this, ink it, and there's so many other possibilities once you have your basic drawing laid out, okay? So create a background, do the details, so on and so forth. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this, everybody. I'm going to be putting a lot more videos. Thank you for your support. Keep supporting me. Subscribe and like the channel. That will help a lot. Gives you encouragement. All right, so thank you so much for watching my videos. I'm going to be putting a lot more in the future, urban sketching, so on and so forth. Okay, so here is where I'm completing it, looking at the fine details and see how I can finish this, you see. So it's very important to get those shades, the shadows behind the eyes, the planes, you know, the cheekbones, the different planes, pop them out, you know, receding, foreshortening. Everything comes into play right there, you know, within the nose and the eyes. You see, the perspective is right over, all over the place. So you need to keep that in mind. Understand that some of the planes are popping upward toward you. Some planes are receding backward, back from away from you. Always keeping in mind the perspective behind, you know, the invisible lines that go through the drawing onto the horizon line. Okay, that's something that you need to keep in mind. So I hope you enjoyed this particular drawing. Please subscribe and share. So there you have it, everybody, and I'm just trying to put some background color in there just to make it, you know, pop everything out a little bit. I hope you enjoyed all this, and like you saw before on the screen, subscribe and share, push the like button. Thank you for your support. Stay tuned for more videos. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.